I still remember the date, April 15th, a day that would forever remain etched in my memory. I had been meticulously perfecting every report, working late into the night, not just to punch the clock, but to secure my position in the company with the impending layoffs looming over our heads, like a dark cloud, ready to burst. The tension in the break room was palpable, an unsettling silence punctuated by the hum of the refrigerator. But that day, it shattered. As I sipped my lukewarm coffee, I overheard a conversation that made my stomach drop. There was Jamie, my boss, laughing lightly but with razor-sharp edges, discussing how some positions just had to go. My heart raced as I realized he was circling my role. My ears burned, and the bitter taste of betrayal clawed at my throat. How could he betray me like this? Later that same day, fueled by a blend of anxiety and anger, I confronted him. "Jamie, I need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. As I stepped into his office, a chill swept over the room. I expected a sympathetic ear, or at least some acknowledgement, but instead, he snapped. "You think you deserve a job here? You're lucky to be in this position at all," he shouted, pushing my fragile self-esteem to the brink. The flames of embarrassment flickered wildly as my colleagues peered in, their eyes wide with disbelief. Humiliation enveloped me like a thick fog. I knew I needed to take control. With a quivering hand, I forwarded his last texts to HR. "Demand this, do that," with a condescending tone only he could master. The moment I hit send, I felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with fear. Would this backfire? As rumors started swirling about Jamie's shady dealings, whispers of corruption ignited in the office, drawn in by the flames of my defiance. I formed unexpected alliances with others who craved change. Together, we began uncovering secrets, piecing together a puzzle that hinted at danger lying beneath the surface. But the deeper we dug, the more I questioned if I'd unleashed a monster. Would we pay for this defiance? "What have you done?" someone whispered as we met in the dim, flickering light of a conference room. Before we unravel this growing chaos, a quick heads up for those of you tuning in. YouTube is known for removing subscriptions, so take a moment to ensure you're still subscribed and like this video to help support our journey. Now, back to the storm brewing. What lay ahead would change everything. As the dies unfolded, the air in the office thickened with tension. It felt like walking through a minefield, each step uncertain. I'd clicked send with a rush of adrenaline, but now I was grappling with the haunting question: had I crossed a line? My heart raced with anxiety, but alongside it grew an unexpected sense of empowerment. Surprisingly, a group began to form. Those who'd previously whispered about their fears in hushed tones were now sharing their own experiences of Jamie's wrath. "Did he really shout at you like that?" Sarah, from accounting, asked me during one of our whispers in the break room. I nodded, the sting of that encounter still fresh. "He does this all the time. It's like he thrives on making us feel small," she replied, her voice trembling with indignation. It wasn't just about me anymore. The atmosphere shifted from a suffocating dread to a hesitant unity. I began to realize I wasn't alone in this battle. We strategized in secret, a group of us determined to take down the oppressive regime of Jamie. If we can gather enough evidence, HR won't have a choice. Chris, a charming but sharp-witted colleague, declared. My heart fluttered. It felt exhilarating, dangerous even. As we compiled emails, recorded meetings, and scoured the digital universe for traces of his questionable leadership, I felt like we were unearthing buried treasure. But with each piece of evidence, realization struck. This was no longer just about revenge. It was about justice. As whispers of Jamie's corruption spread, I could sense cracks starting to form in his facade. "He's been getting too comfortable," someone muttered. Would he even see it coming? Before the storm could break free, I glanced at my phone. A message flickered on my screen. "Let's meet tonight. Things are escalating." Instinctively, I felt a thrill run through me. What were we about to uncover? But before we dive into the chaos awaiting us, don't forget to check if you're still subscribed. Your support fuels our quest for truth. Now, let's dive deeper into the storm brewing beneath the surface. Buckle up. It's going to get wild. The atmosphere in the office shifted palpably as the days slipped by. Tension crackled like a live wire. Every enterprising move was fraught with peril. I knew we were on the brink of something huge, but the adrenaline mixed with apprehension made my head spin. My heart raced as I found myself engulfed in clandestine meetings, plotting our next steps against Jamie's tyrannical hold. "Did you hear the latest?" Sarah blurted out one afternoon, glancing around as if the walls had ears. My curiosity piqued. "A few employees are talking about going to HR," she whispered, her eyes glinting with fear and determination. "There's power in numbers. They can't just brush us off if there are enough of us." I nodded, my heart swelling with hope. Perhaps this was the move we desperately needed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, our crew gathered at the local cafe, a safe haven away from the watchful eyes of the office. "We need to stay united," I urged, feeling the weight of responsibility settle firmly on my shoulders. "If we take Jamie down, we won't just be fighting for ourselves, but for everyone else he's bullied." The fire in my chest roared alive, but with unity came fear. What if Jamie retaliated? What if he turned his wrath onto us? Chris leaned in closer, sensing my unease. "We've got to be smart about this. He thinks he's untouchable, but that's exactly his weakness." His confidence sparked something within me, and thoughts whirled in my mind. A message from my phone interrupted my thoughts. "Are you prepared for what happens next?" It was from a trusted ally, someone who was ready to take these stakes higher. Anxiety washed over me, but so did a surge of resolve. Before we reveal the twists waiting to unfold, take a moment and make sure you're subscribed. Your support is vital as we navigate this turbulent journey together. Buckle up, because the real chaos is about to begin. Looking around the cafe, I could see determination mirrored in the faces of my colleagues. There was Sarah with her fiery spirit, Chris with his razor-sharp wit and charm, and even Tim, who always seemed too frightened to raise his hand in meetings, but now looked resolute. Just days ago, we had been drowning in dread. But now, we were a collective force ready to challenge the odds. As we sipped our coffees, I caught a glimpse of the chatter on social media. Words like corruption and favoritism were trending within the whisper networks of our company, and I felt a swell of pride mixed with dread. This was all spiraling out, faster than I imagined. "We need to strike while the iron is hot," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If people are already talking, then we might stand a chance. Maybe we can set up an anonymous tip line, or a group meeting, something that shows HR it's not just us," Chris suggested. The wheels in my mind started churning, trying to align everything we were doing with the bigger picture of what it could mean for the entire company culture. "If we're careful with the way we present this, we can shine a light on the truth," I added with conviction. Then the conversation shifted as fear re-entered the room. "What if he finds out?" Tim asked, his hands trembling slightly as he asked the question lingering in all our minds. "He can't know it's us. We have to be anonymous," I reassured him. "He's been too careless. He might not even see it coming." The crackling tension of excitement tinged with apprehension held us together, bordering on electric. Each word fueled the fire, stoking the flames of revolution welling up inside us. As we finalized our plan, It felt like we were standing at the edge of a precipice. "Tonight we go all in," I declared, sensing eyes widening in response. We left the cafe buoyed by our newfound mission, planning our next moves meticulously. That night, illuminated by the flickering lights of a nearby diner, we gathered around my laptop and began compiling everything. Emails, memos, witness accounts, I mumbled as I scanned through piles of documents and transcripts. Each click of my keyboard synced with the heartbeat of the office pulsating with change. But as hours passed, timidity set in again. My fingers hovered once or twice as the reality of what we were doing sunk in. "Are we sure we want to go through with this?" I asked, my voice wavering slightly. Instantly, a wave of support washed over me. "If not now, then when?" Chris urged me. "This is important, and we've got the perfect opportunity." With each passing hour, that urgency flourished within our little group, compelling us to act, even when doubt clenched at our hearts. "We'll do this together," Sarah said firmly, looking each of us in the eyes. "There's power in numbers. We're stronger united." The next morning, I woke up with a thick sense of anticipation in my gut. Beneath it all, anxiety churned. What had I signed us up for? My mind raced through the potential repercussions. Was revenge worth possibly losing my job? But life had shown me one thing. Sitting in the shadows wouldn't save me from falling knives. In the office, everything felt different, like the air crackled with anticipation. People whispered more than usual, casting wary glances at Jamie's office. "You heard the rumors?" someone muttered beside me. I nodded, my pulse quickening. Those whispers didn't just float, they carried the weight of uncertainty, and with it, the stakes were rising again. Suddenly, I caught Jamie's eyes as he marched into the office, a storm brewing in his demeanor. "Get back to work," he barked, his voice cutting through the conversations like a knife. My heart raced, not just out of fear, but out of defiance. In that moment, I made a silent pact with myself. I would not let him intimidate me again. Moments later, I found myself next to Chris by the coffee machine. "Do you think we're ready?" I asked, doubt creeping in. But he shot me a look that hushed it, filled with determination. "We have to be. If we don't act, there's no change," he responded. And it struck me. He was right. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. As I pulled it out, my breath caught in my throat. "HR wants to meet," the message read. My stomach lurched. The moment of the truth had arrived. I glanced at Chris. This is it. When I stepped into the HR office, the weight of uncertainty wrestled with the thrill of potential liberation. "Thank you for coming," the HR manager said, her eyes searching mine. "We've heard some troubling things." In that brief moment, I felt the culmination of weeks of anxiety transform into something palpable. Power. "I'm here to share my experience," I began, a steadying resolve fighting back the tremors in my voice. I retold my story, layered with the collective voices of my colleagues, each piece of information an offering, a way to thrust our truth into the light. With every tale shared, the air felt richer, thick with potential for change. But what I didn't know yet was the level of response we could evoke. The importance of our choice was echoing louder than I ever imagined, culminating in a reality that would bring ripples through our entire company. "What you've shared is serious," the HR manager replied, her tone suddenly grave. "We need to conduct a thorough investigation." As we left that meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had crossed a threshold. But just as hope ignited within me, a new question surfaced. What if Jamie discovered what we'd done? The chaos unfolding could mean drastic consequences, and I could feel the storm gathering once again. Before I could sink into despair about what might come next, I remembered the unity we built. We had lit a match that wouldn't easily be extinguished. Rumors were swirling, whispers had turned into roars, and with awareness came change. But as revelations spread, I realized that the stakes were about to escalate even further. Would Jamie retaliate? Would we have the support we needed as we navigated our newfound narrative? Don't miss what comes next. Most of you are not yet subscribed. Click that button so you don't miss the upheavals waiting just around the corner. The final chapter awaits, and trust me, you won't want to miss the truth unraveling before us. The air in the office felt electrified the following week, each glance exchanged fraught with unspoken tension. We had initiated a spark, and though the storm loomed on the horizon, I could sense that a change was brewing. Yet, with all that uncertainty, the palpable anxiety danced at the edges of our interactions, creating a strange bond among my colleagues and me. We were united once again, not just as co-workers, but as warriors ready to confront an unwieldy nemesis. On Monday morning, as I poured my coffee, Sarah sidled up beside me, her eyes wide. "Did you hear? Jamie's been called into a meeting with upper management," she whispered, glancing back to ensure no one else was within earshot. That news knocked the air from my lungs. Could this be it? The turning point we had all been waiting for? "Good," I replied, feeling a surge of hope intertwining with the anxiety that had been ever present. There was a flicker of excitement in our tiny team as whispers traveled fast. Would this meeting lead to an investigation into his practices? Were we finally on the cusp of seeing consequences for his actions? But our worries weren't over. Hours later, a chilling message popped up on my phone. "You're going to regret what you did," Jamie had texted me directly. The threat hung heavy in the air, squeezing the joy right out of our previous moments of camaraderie. My heart raced as I pondered the implications. Anger bubbled beneath my skin. Regret? I wouldn't let fear dictate my journey. After that chilling encounter, as the hours dragged on, I huddled with Chris and Sarah to discuss our next steps. "He's trying to intimidate you," Chris finally said, his voice steady but fierce. "You can't let that get to you. We have momentum. We've got to keep it going." I looked at their earnest faces, fortified by belief and solidarity. "You're right," I whispered, my resolve rekindled. "We need to file an anonymous complaint, songing out the major issues that have plagued our workplace. Let's take this to the next level." That afternoon, we gathered in the nearby park to draft our statements, our hands trembling with both fear and eagerness to see this through. Together, we documented every indignity we'd suffered at Jamie's hands. Enough was enough. When I finally looked up, I could see the same fire we felt blazing in their eyes. "This is for us, and everyone else who suffered in silence," I reminded them, and with renewed energy coursing through us, we submitted our recounts. And then began another waiting game. Would HR take action? Would Jamie's reign of terror come crashing down? Doubt crept in again, and I found myself in a cycle of anxiety like never before. As I walked through the halls, each encounter with a colleague felt like a question mark hanging in the air. Would they still back our cause, or would fear overpower justice? 2 days later, an email landed in my inbox that made my heart race. The subject line read, "Investigation Results." I clicked open, my pulse quickening with every word I read. Jamie had been put on leave pending the results, and the company was taking our revelations seriously. My heart swelled with disbelief. This was it. The breath of hope stirred in my chest. That Thursday, Jamie's absence was deafening. For the first time in months, I witnessed a small shift among my peers. Conversations turned deeper than idle gossip. They morphed into murmurs of support, of empowerment. I caught sight of Sarah meeting with a few others, a smile breaking through their anxiety. "We did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but the excitement was contagious. It became undeniably clear. Our voices mattered. Bonded by this shared struggle, our team began to grow, drawing in even those too fearful to stand up before. Change ignited a power that reverberated through our office, stirring a culture shift that promised brighter days. Weeks later, after the chaos of restructuring and weeks of uncertainty, I found myself standing before HR for the final follow-up. It felt surreal, like I was watching a movie. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for your courage. Your actions have initiated a necessary change within the company, the HR director stated, her gaze holding mine with gratitude. Though Jamie wasn't coming back, it felt odd to celebrate a departure rooted in hardship. I took a deep breath as I realized how far I had come. The victim I once was had grown into an empowered individual, no longer overshadowed by fear. As I left that room, a warm glow settled within me. I watched my colleagues embrace the newfound space and the possibilities that loomed ahead. Change, although challenging, came carrying lessons of resilience, camaraderie, and strength. A few months later, glancing back, I realized this journey was more than just about a former boss or the struggles we faced. It was about taking our narrative back, about valuing our worth, and ultimately standing together as a community ready to face adversity. I hope you found inspiration in my tale. Remember, you're not alone in your struggles. If you relate to this journey, or if you'd like to see more stories like this, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Your support is crucial as we unveil more journeys of triumph and resilience ahead. Thank you for being part of this real and transformative tale. Together, we're unstoppable.